Hello, my name is Morgan Hess, Youth Vote Project Coordinator with the League of Women Voters St. Paul.
And my name is Grace Reardon. I'm a Youth Civic Engagement Fellow with the League of Women Voters St. Paul.
This is the first in a series of 3 videos aimed at explaining the voter registration process in Minnesota. And in this video, we'll be explaining how to register to vote online through the Minnesota Secretary of State's website. If you aren't sure whether your Minnesota voter registration is current, or if you want to register in Minnesota for the first time, here's how you go about doing that online. So you can register to vote on the Secretary of State's website, which should be the first link you come across if you type Minnesota Secretary of State into Google. Here's the link. Once you reach the Secretary of State's website, you want to go to the top of the page and hover over Elections and Voting, and then click Register to Vote. From here, you can check your registration status if you aren't sure whether your registration is up to date with your current address, or if you're not sure if you registered in Minnesota. Remember that your voter registration must be current at your address. To check your registration, you only need to provide your name, your birthday, and your address, just like this. For our purposes, this information is fictional. This person doesn't exist. As you can see, this imaginary person is not registered to vote. So if you're not registered, click Register to Vote on the drop-down menu here, and then click Register Online. It's a good time to point out that Minnesota does have same-day voter registration, so you can register on Election Day at the polls if you would rather do that. For more information about what you'll need in order to do that, there's a link on the previous page. In order to register online, you'll need a Minnesota driver's license or state ID, or the last 4 digits of your social security number. If this isn't possible, if you don't have either of those numbers, you can print a registration form on the previous page and mail it to the Secretary of State's office, and they will get in contact with you about what you need to do, what your options are. The voter registration form here starts by ensuring that you're able to register in Minnesota with these 3 boxes. You have to be a US citizen and be 18 on or before the next election. You'll also need to be what we call off papers, or finished with all parts of a felony sentence. This includes probation and parole. Remember that a felony conviction does not bar you from voting for life in most states. Then you click Next. And you'll now need to enter your personal information, starting with your name. Again, this information is fictional. If you've changed your name since you've last registered to vote, you'll need to provide your previous name. This is actually a good time to point out that if you're a college student, or if you're currently registered in another state, you can still register to vote in Minnesota. The Secretary of State encourages everyone to vote in the place they consider home, and it is legal to be registered in more than one state. Just please don't try to vote in more than one state. That is illegal. You'll now need an email address. If you don't have one, I would encourage you to make one for free at gmail.com. If you're a student at a St. Paul public school, you can use your school email address. Next, you'll need your Minnesota driver's license number or state ID card. If you don't have either of these, click the box that we just did, and you'll be asked to provide the last 4 digits of your social security number. Again, if you don't have either of those, the best thing to do is to print out the form from the Secretary of State's website, fill it out, and mail it in. Now you'll need to enter your zip code, and then your housing number and your street address. For our purposes, we're using a random address in St. Paul. If you can't receive mail at your current address, for example, if you use a post office box, click I cannot receive mail at this address, and then you would type in your post office box or other information. For our purposes, we won't be doing that. If you've moved since you've last registered to vote in Minnesota, you'll need to enter that information here. If your previous registration was in another state, this doesn't apply. Now, if the last thing you'll need to do is check the box affirming that all of this information is correct, sign the form, and submit it. For our purposes, we won't actually be submitting this form as we'd be submitting false information, but you should click submit and not cancel as we're about to do. And now you should be registered to vote in Minnesota.